Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Muhamad Aliuddin bin Baharun. Today, I would like to present first about introduction. More recently, tax reform has been made many headline news, triggering a growing interest in society around the world, as well as desire to understand how tax reform works and what is the purpose of tax reform. Tax reform can be defined usually involve altering the structure of one or more tax or the tax system in order to improve their operation and achieve their goal and objective. Tax reform is primarily conducted to improve the efficiency of tax administration and to enhance the economical and social benefit that tax system could provide. Tax reform issue in Malaysia has been focused on two main thrusts: the improvement of tax management and introduction of new tax. Malaysian government firstly must identify any area of the tax system that demand the most attention and figure out on how to implement the tax reform without imposing a significant overall tax burden on the economy, wage earner, businesses and investor.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhamad Aqil Azhad bin Basra. Today I will explain about the factors that make the Malaysian tax narrow system based. The first factor is the change of the taxation system. Every country have their own tax system, including Malaysia. In Malaysia, tax system are under the supervision of Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, also known as LHDN. But they are mainly involved in the direct tax like income tax and income petroleum tax. For the indirect tax, it was under the Royal Malaysian Customs Department supervision, and one of the tax is SST. SST is an indirect tax that are introduced by the government in the 2018 to replace the old to replace the previous uh, indirect tax, that is GST. After the change from the GST to the SST tax, it caused the total revenue of the tax decrease massively. This is because the GST and the SST is a different system tax. GST, it is a multi-level system tax that are taxing every level of the production of the supply chain, while SST is a single level taxation system of the supply chain. This make the total revenue that come out from the GST much more greater to the SST because of the multi-level tax system introduced by the in the GST system compared to the SST system. It is also note that the reason of the GST have a more collectible revenue because of the systems that are more transparency and more reliable compared to the old SST that have been using by the government. The second factors is a political factors. Malaysia is a very democracy country that are based from the British Westminster parliamentary system that we adopted from the United Kingdom. Malaysian practice multi-party system. From the multi-party system, they are also influenced by many ideologies. And when the change of the government happened, it also brings the change in policy. That is what we see in the 2018 general election. During the 14th general election, for the first time in the country history, Malaysians changed the government from the ruling party Barisan Nasional that have been held the power for the 60 years to the new coalition that is Pakatan Harapan for the first time in history. With the change of the government, they also brought them the change of the policy in the taxation system because the winning coalition that is Pakatan Harapan have their own manifesto that is wants to abolish the GST and reinstall back the SST. But the problem is they were not expecting of the result of the election, and because of that, in the 2019 revenue report, it saw that the the tax revenue have been reduced compared to the previous year. And to combat the reduce of the tax collection, the government introduced sugar tax to overcome the loss of the GST. But it's still not enough to to overcome the percentage of loss. This show that the people need to understand very intensely the manifesto of the political parties.
Next, the problem of narrow-based tax is tax only imposed for certain sectors. In Malaysia, we do have lots of sectors, but government only focus on certain sectors, such as impose tax 24% to corporate company. During pandemic, foreign direct investment seems to be fall due to uncertainty of cases happen in Malaysia that make foreign investment cannot be done, and scared because of unstable situation and economy faced by Malaysia. Government failed to impose tax on certain sectors in some circumstances allow them to gain high profit. As an example, government said that they have no plan to impose windfall tax to rubber gloves company that enjoyed supernormal profit from higher demand and selling price of rubber during this pandemic. As compared to palm oil, it has collected 348 million ringgit Malaysia from windfall tax. This shows that government missed the potential revenue could be earned if they imposed windfall tax to rubber gloves. Therefore, government must be concerned towards development of certain sectors that could help to increase revenue. Lastly, the taxation system is weak. Taxation system is a system where every person is taxed based on information gathered by the system. Weakness of system allows some people or company to fake their document and information to avoid from paying tax. According to Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, few research found that small size of company have significant to tax exemption through false financial reporting activities. Other than that, change from goods and service tax (GST) to sales and service tax (SST) show that this tax system is weak due to decreasing revenue gained by government, which is SST gained 22 billion ringgit while at GST gained 44 billion ringgit Malaysia in previous year. Therefore, government must take an action by improving the taxation system to ensure every person cannot run from paying tax. It also can help to reduce the existing gap between the rich and poor people and review the effectiveness of various people that can be implemented in Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhamad Iskandar bin Hamzah. I will present the justification on the disagreement over the dependency of oil-related revenue. The reason the country should not depend on oil-related revenue because crude oil prices are volatile. This is because supply and demand forces are the main factor, as well as the competition in the market affect the price in the fuel. So that when the demand of the fuel is low, the fuel supply is high, the price of the fuel will decrease. For instance, most of the country implemented movement restriction order to prevent people from spreading the virus COVID-19. Therefore, oil consumption dropped due to the fact people did not use transportation because of the movement restriction order, which made people unable to move or travel to another places. According to the Muhamad Zaki Zainuddin, on average and annually, Malaysia is expected to lose 7.4 billion ringgit in the new capital investment and reduction in fiscal revenue from oil and gas of 30.9 billion because of stay-at-home policy. Next, the reason the country should not depend on oil-related revenue because of oil is the resources that will run out. Oil and gas is a non-renewable resources, and this oil will run out when the peak time or peak oil. As matter of knowledge, crude oil is a fossil fuel that was generated over millions of years by living organisms that were fossilized. Unfortunately, the demand for fuel keep increasing year by year due to the global population increasing. According to Gyota Kuo, he mentioned that at the present rate of the demand, the world oil reserve will last in 53 years. In 2018, global oil demand increased by 1.3%. Fuel currently provide approximately 40% of the world electricity and 56% of its transportation energy. It has used 875 billion barrels of oil. Other than that, in the context of Malaysia, oil and gas reserves are expected to decline in 2029 based on the current production rate. If the oil run out, it will give a huge impact to the country because 30.9% from the national revenue contributed from the petroleum production. It should be highlighted that a country should not depend on a particular economic sector, so that the economy will not be affected when any global crisis occur.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhamad Haykal bin Yusni. So for the question 2, we can see that the author had disagreed on dependency of nations' revenue towards oil business. It is understandable on why the author disagree in such matter. The first reason is because Malaysia does not dominate in the oil market in the world. So Malaysia do not hold the power to control the oil market and must obey the changes of the prices regardless of how many Malaysia can produce and export the oil. And these changes of the oil prices in market can cause many countries to face a massive loss of profit. Besides, the best government could do is forecasting the price of oil per barrel, but the forecasted price may not be exactly the same. Previous Finance Minister, Mr. Lim Guan Eng, prepared the 2020 National Budget that was based on the oil price forecast, US $62 per barrel. However, the current oil price is nearly half that estimate. Okay, so the next reason on why the author disagree on why Malaysia cannot rely on the oil-related revenue is because Malaysia have many sectors that can be enhanced to generate revenue. So instead of focusing on oil sector to generate the national revenue, the government also could enhance the other sectors. In this case, the government can assist the manufacturing and also tourism sector. Tourism in Malaysia had been clinical to the nation's economy, as just before the pandemic of COVID-19 hits Malaysia, the tourism sector had contributed a great amount of revenue to the country. And for the manufacturing sector, the government need to enhance their performance by giving them subsidy to increase their effectiveness and efficiency in manufacturing. This is because the manufacturing sector contributed 22.8% of gross domestic product in Malaysia in 2017. And these two sectors could perform excellently and increase their performance, thus increase the national revenue when more financial aid is injected towards them. Thank you.
Okay, lastly, for the conclusion. As a conclusion, the reform of taxation can be best undertaken within the context with the clear strategy. Next, the tax reform needs to be done in careful manner as it brings important changes in tax system of certain country. To make sure this happening, the tax reform community need to be established first. Tax reform community will be act as a pillars to address tax leakage, reduce the existing tax gap, and many more. The tax reform should become more effective if it's done in a short to medium term perspective and bring immediate impact on the economy.